Good afternoon, and welcome to the first session of the CTE New Teacher Academy. My name is Mark Boshier, and I'm the Director of Training and Technical Assistance for the Career and Technical Association of Texas, or as you'll come to know it as CTAT. And I think most of you in here are either new to CTE or you are a new teacher. This is your first year teaching, or I don't think any of you in here have over 3 years teaching, especially in CTE. So I do want to hit this slide. I kind of overuse this joke, but it's always funny to me. This is, we'll call this the Boshier School for the Gifted. And for those of you who haven't seen this before, this kid's at the School for the Gifted and he's pushing instead of pulling. And that's a Far Side cartoon, and they make me chuckle, so I tend to use them during a lot of presentations. So welcome to the CTE community. And a good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. And so I just want to start out by saying thank you for entering this profession. We need you in this profession. But most of all, the students that you'll be teaching need you. And so take this as a great quote to go with you, because you're always going to feel underappreciated as a teacher, and just know that you're lighting the way for others, and what you do is appreciated out in the state and in the country and by your stakeholders in your district. So what we're talking about here today is CTE, the big picture. Because if you're new to CTE or you're new to teaching, career and technical education is its own beast, and it has a lot of components that other parts of the school system don't have. And so most of the time, even administrators, we have a group of next generation administrators that we speak with, even they're requesting for a presentation for the big picture, because there's so many moving parts. They just don't get it all at one time. So we thought a good way to start out the new CTE Teacher Academy would be with a big picture presentation and kind of give you some history and kind of let you see all of the different parts that are involved with career and technical education. And I'm not promising we're going to hit all of them, but we're going to do our best to hit the bulk of what you'll be dealing with in CTE. From 1776 to 1826, that was a period in American history known as the Awakening. And the right to a free and public education for children was stressed early in the United States, as there was a need to educate future leaders. Apprenticeships were giving way to formal schooling in certain trades. And during the first 50 years of the United States, public education was largely limited to boys. Although in the early 1800s, girls began to enter schools to prepare for teaching. Even Ben Franklin, I know I'm not breaking any news here, but talking about the apprentice programs in terms of career and tech or vocational education, as the term was known at one time, mainly was due through apprenticeships. And so even Ben Franklin, our founding fathers, was an apprentice. From 1826 to 1876, the next 50 years, that was known as the time as independent action. In the early 19th century, the workforce and the public education system started to work together and create a continuous stream of workers for different jobs. Schools specializing in training students to enter certain areas of workforce started to open the doors, creating the basic framework for what we now know of as career and technical education. The beginning of public high schools also began to be explored to continue to educate citizens during this time frame. The Education Act of 1870 required all children between the ages of 5 and 13 to begin as mandatory years to attend school. From 1876 to 1926, that's known as the vocational education age. And the first manual training school was established in St. Louis, Missouri in 1879, and it set the foundation for what we know as modern career and technical education. This school combined hands-on learning, still one of our major components, with classroom learning. Near the 20th century, agricultural education started to thrive with agricultural schools to open the doors. In 1917, U.S. Senator Hope Smith and Representative Dudley Hughes and others worked together to put a bill before Congress to federally fund and nationally organize vocational education, which is a term that was used in previous years, and now the term is career and technical education. And so you have probably what is the second most famous piece of legislation that relates to CTE, and that's the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917. The Smith-Hughes Act promoted vocational education in agriculture, trades and industry, and homemaking. It provided federal funds for this purpose, which was new. And this act allowed schooling to be interesting, applied, and in return, more students graduated from high school. And you see with the focus on agriculture, because of our society, at the time, a farmer would feed about one farmer fed 4 people. And then that ratio became 1 to 22, and now it's 1 to hundreds or thousands. The Smith-Hughes Act of 1917, for all practical purposes, was how we established what were the two major youth groups of the time, which was Future Farmers of America, as it was called then, and the Future Homemakers of America, or FHA. And I hate to admit this, but that's what they were still called when I was in high school, showing my age. And this was not me in high school, but I enjoy looking at these old pictures. And of course, you see the Future Homemakers of America. Over there, it's all girls from the 1950s, whereas now we have an even split of boys and girls in the FCCLA programs. And you can see over on the right, the old FFA students that are showing the stock that looks like it was bred in the 1950s, because it was. Certainly you wouldn't see an animal that looked like that today. The Smith-Hughes Act of 1917 established the separation of funds for vocational and traditional education. Smith-Hughes Act spelled out the federal government's intent, which was to avoid the rating of vocational funds by other segments of the comprehensive high school. The result was to separate the vocational education program from that of its mainstream in school operations. And that's still something that's done today. They separate out career and technical funds from the rest of the school district. In 1963, we had the Vocational Education Act, which was basically a renewal of the Smith-Hughes Act. And in 1963, the Vocational Education Act allowed for the transfer of money from one occupation category to another. For example, if you received $1,000 for ag and $1,000 for family and consumer science, then you didn't have to spend all that money on ag every year, and you didn't have to spend all your money on home ec. You could transfer those monies back and forth from one category to another, as we do today. It permitted pre-employment lab training in distributive education, what we would now call career prep. And it removed the requirements for 9 months minimum of 50% of the time in vocational education. So we started moving away from, this is a vocational education student versus a traditional student. In 1963, the Vocational Education Act established work-study programs, and funding for vocational education was substantially increased to $225 million, which was a pretty good chunk of change in 1963. The Vocational Education Act established a definition for vocational education, and it was organized educational programs for careers requiring other than a bachelor's or advanced degree. And does that sound familiar? That definition came out in 1963. It hasn't been a valid definition since 1980, yet we're still battling that definition, and largely because of what came out in 1963 as part of the Vocational Education Act. Carl D. Perkins was a Kentucky Democrat in the House from 1949 to 1984. Carl Perkins worked as a teacher in Knott County schools, which had 90 students. He then went to the University of Louisville School of Law and graduated in 1935. During World War II, Carl Perkins enlisted in the U.S. Army and served a tour in Europe. He was chairman of the Committee on Education and Labor from 1967 to 1984, which was the 90th and 98th Congresses. Also, something unique in my research I found for Carl Perkins, he was the only Kentucky vote in favor of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. So not only was Carl Perkins a pioneer in career and technical education, but also on the right side of history for civil rights. And Carl Perkins still supports education in the underprivileged through a federal Perkins loan a federal student loan called the Perkins Loan. Many of you may have had a Perkins loan going through college. I for sure did. The Carl Perkins Vocational and Technical Education Act was re-upped in 1984, 1990, 1998, 2006, and 2018. And just keep in mind that the Carl Perkins Act, even still, is a rolling forward on the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917. But anyway, the Perkins Act, the purpose was to develop more fully the academic, career, and technical skills of secondary and post-secondary students who elect to enroll in career and technical education programs. And you can see that as we move into the 80s, we start to get more holistic on how we educate career and technical education students. We're not just pigeonholing them into the students that aren't going to college. It's a holistic approach. And of course, through these years and on the Perkins grant, we evolved into the term career and technical education instead of vocational education. The most recent enactment of the Perkins grant came about when President Trump signed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which is referred to as Perkins 5. And in Perkins 5, the new requirements for programs of study, which we deal with today, that link academic and technical content across secondary and post-secondary education. And they also strengthen the local accountability provisions that will ensure continuous program improvement. And so as we look at the big picture, let's go in and look at the different occupations and technical skill attainment. The ONET, which is the Resource Center for the Occupational Network, utilizes a standard occupational classification system, or the SOC. It's used by federal statistical agencies to classify workers and jobs into occupational categories. The SOC classifies all occupations in which work is performed for pay or profit. The Occupational Information Network, or the ONET, is the nation's primary source for occupational information, and it is managed through the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment, and Training Administration. Occupations in the same field of work that require similar skills are organized into career clusters. Career clusters help to focus educational plans towards obtaining the necessary knowledge, competencies, and training for success in a particular career pathway. And so as we learn about the term career clusters, let's move in and take a deeper look. National career clusters fall into 16 categories: agriculture, food and natural resource, architecture and construction, arts and AV, business management, education and training, finance, government, health science, hospitality and tourism, human services, information technology, law, public safety, manufacturing, marketing, STEM, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. And according to the ONET and the standard occupancy or the standard occupation classification system, every job that gets paid for can be placed into one of these 16 career clusters. In the Texas career clusters, up until this year, they pretty much held with the same clusters as the nationals. But you can, excuse me, you can see that Texas career clusters have changed in Texas Administrative Code this year because business, marketing, and finance have been combined together. But more importantly, Texas has added subchapter O for energy. And so the Texas legislature decided to separate out energy, which was previously under agricultural, food, and natural resources. And obviously, the reason they did that is because energy is such an important industry in Texas. And so once we're looking at the different career clusters, now each career cluster contains a set of courses. And so now as we peel back the onion, go from career clusters to courses, CTE courses and career clusters, each cluster contains a set of courses with content relating to the general career area. And so I pulled this set of courses out for manufacturing just for an example. And just to go back just a hair, you can see that manufacturing is one of the career clusters both at the state and at the national level. And so you can look and you can pull this up, and all this comes from Administrative Code and TEA. But here are the courses that are available to students or that are available for districts to teach in the state of Texas under the career cluster of manufacturing. And you can see there are principles of manufacturing, diversified manufacturing, precision metal, introduction to welding, welding 1, welding 2, and there's welding 2 with if you want to add an extension to the lab. And so just to go back, every single career cluster has a specific set of courses that all relate to the content or the career area. And so inside of each course, there are essential knowledge and skills that all students should gain. And so we just pull out here, for example, we'll go to the cluster agricultural, food, and natural resources. And of course, we look at this course, agribusiness management and marketing. And here we are, we click in there and we come into the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for Career Tech. And that's chapter 130. Subchapter A is agricultural, food, and natural resources. The course that we're identifying is agricultural business and marketing for 1 credit. And then we can look in here and we can see the specific essential knowledge and skills that students are expected to learn and be able to do. And so the TEKS are basically what is expected of the student. And they're written in terminology the student will be able to. And you can also see as we do a deeper dive later into the TEKS in the New Teacher Academy that all of the TEKS are written in behavioral terms. But anyway, here's just an example of some essential knowledge and skills for the agribusiness course. The student defines key issues of agribusiness success and failure. And under this TEK, The student is expected to apply the decision-making process for budgeting. They're expected to be able to analyze business records. They're expected to be able to determine methods of financing for agribusiness. They're expected to identify methods of obtaining capital resources. And the student is expected to be able to analyze agricultural commodity markets. And again, this is just one broad teak that's within the whole course. And it's what is the student expected to do? And so we look at another one. We go to health science and just anatomy and physiology for an example. And so what is the student expected to do? Again, I just pulled up another sample teak. In this particular teak, the student is expected to, the student differentiates the response of the human body to internal and external forces, and they are expected to explain the coordination of muscles, bones, and joints that allow for the movement of the body. They're expected to investigate and report the uses of various diagnostic and therapeutic technology. Again, every course in every single cluster has essential knowledge and skills. And as a teacher, or a new teacher, or an experienced teacher, or 30-year teacher, teaching the essential knowledge and skills to students in the course or courses for which you are the teacher of record is the most basic requirement of an educator. You are expected to do that, if nothing else. And so now we move into programs of study. And of course, we mentioned earlier in the history of legislation that programs of study were really re-emphasized and redefined in Perkins 5, or the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. So programs of study are course sequences that prepare students with the knowledge and skills necessary for success in their chosen career. These sequences of courses embed relevant real-world experiences that culminate in a post-secondary credential. Programs of study incorporate challenging state academic standards. Programs of study address academic, technical, and employability skills. Programs of study align with the needs of industries in the state, regional, and/or local economy. They progress in specificity, beginning with all aspects of industry and leading to more occupational specific instruction. Programs of study have multiple entry and exit points that incorporate credentialing, whether that be an industry license or a post-secondary certification or a degree. And programs of study culminate in the attainment of a recognized post-secondary credential. At one time, districts just kind of made up their own programs of study, and then with Perkins 5 came in, TEA came in and really firmed up what made an approved program of study through TEA. And you can see that TEA actually has a web page full of approved programs of study, and this is very critical to career and technical education at this time. Oh, to become a welder. So here we are looking at a specific programs of study. Each career cluster, in this case manufacturing, has multiple programs of study. Manufacturing, for example, has 3. In the manufacturing career cluster, the 3 programs of study are advanced manufacturing and machinery mechanics, manufacturing technology, and welding is a program of study. Each program of study has a sequence of approved relevant courses. And you can see that we're in the manufacturing cluster, we're in the welding program of study, and in the specific courses, it has Introduction to Welding, Welding 1, Welding 2 with a lab, and then Practicum in Manufacturing or Career Preparation 1. So again, cluster, program of study, courses. Each program of study leads to a post-secondary credential. And you can see that in these program of study sheets provided by TEA, it gives you the industry certifications. It gives you what type of associate's degrees are available, where a student would work to earn a bachelor's degree in this field, and master's and doctoral post-secondary professional degrees. Also, uh, each program of study leads to a high wage, high demand activity. I thought at one time we would Google CTE and let you do it, but I decided we'll do this in terms of a survey later on. So don't worry about doing this guided practice. Okay, so now that we know that career and technical education has uh, career clusters, it has programs of study, it has courses, and it has essential knowledge and skills, how do teachers become certified, or where do you find certified teachers for CTE? Well, CTE certifications are by broad program areas, and you can see those over here on the right. Agricultural, food, natural resources, business and finance, family and consumer science, health science, marketing, technology education, computer science, and trades and industrial. The assignment eligibility varies by individual course. They don't have strictly a cluster certification. It goes course by course. And in general terms, you can say that an ag teacher can teach all of the courses in the ag, food, and natural resources cluster, but that's not going to be true 100%, and for sure not true 100% in every career cluster. The Texas Education Agency issues 9 career and technical education certificates. Trades and industrial, health science, and marketing all have work experience requirements. Now that work experience requirements will vary from 3 to 5 years based on an individual's work experience. And so here you have, this comes from the Chapter 231 assignment school personnel chart. And you can see this is just a standard website from TEA. And so I pull up here and you can see there's the assignments for business information. They have the different courses, education and training, principles, human growth and development. Look, you can see that the different certifications are by course in most instances. And so you look at the business management, and I'm going back and forth just a little bit. So when you see business management, if I were to click on that button, then I would come up and it would give me a list of certifications eligible to teach business management, global business, human resources, principles of business, marketing and finance, and virtual business for grades 9 through 12. And of course it lists, and some of the certifications change over year, and I won't go into a lot of history, but that's the reason why you may have multiple certifications. But any of these certifications would work for any of these courses. And so one of the reasons why I'm telling you this, a lot of times new teachers will, as they're researching and you're in new teacher academies, you begin to network with other teachers, then you say, hey, I would like to teach that course. And so you go to your career tech director and say, hey, I'd really like to teach this course. And your administrator looks at you and says, well, you're not even certified. So I just say that, I'm kind of giggling a little bit, but make sure you check and see if you're certified to teach the course before you propose teaching a new course to your administration. So now let's look at post-secondary credentials, licensure, certifications, and degrees. 65% of all jobs in the United States require post-secondary education of some type. That would be a certification, a license, some type of associate's degree, a master's degree, or a master's or other professional degree, a PhD or EDD. But anyway, regardless, 65% of the jobs all require post-secondary training of some kind. And so this is, I kind of like to give these examples to kind of get you in a frame of mind. Students pursuing a career in journalism would take, and I'm saying ish, close-ish, 45 college hours in the course. And all colleges, whether they be senior 4-year schools or 2-year schools, they all have a core. So they will take 45 hours in the core, and that would be English, math, science, and social studies, and 75 hours in technical education, or take 75 hours in journalism. And they would end up with a 120-hour bachelor's degree. A student pursuing a career in finance would take 45 college hours in the course, and they would take another 75 hours in economics and finance, and again earn 120 hours for a bachelor's degree in economics and finance. What I want you to think of is CTE courses are simply those in the field of majors. And this is the most easy, every one of our counselors have went to college. We have so many people in our community that went to college, and it's so simple to understand and looking at it from the college goggles. But when you put the high school goggles on, it is hard for school people to come around. And I pointed a lot of my, I think it all goes back to 1963 when they come out with those definitions. But if you'll think of career and technical education as the field of major courses or the professional education courses, you'll go a long ways to being able to explain your courses to stakeholders within your community. For post-secondary options, students may earn a 4-year degree. There are different types of an associate's degrees that they're eligible to learn: associates of arts, associates of science, associates of applied science. And in one of our future new teacher academy, we're going to look at all 3 of these, because it's very important that CTE educators understand the importance between an associates of arts and associates of science and an associates of applied science, which is called a technical degree, and it's inverted with the core and the technical courses. They can also, students can earn a certification from an institution of higher education, or an IHE, and they can also earn license and industry-based certifications from third parties. And so we're going to focus on the industry certifications real quickly. Industry-based certifications are valuable in multiple career clusters. Examinations test for performance in specific areas that are accepted throughout the entire industry. Certifications are not company specific. And here is the website, or the list for the A through F accountability system, the list of approved certifications through TEA. And I'm going to zero in just here on the welding. And again, you look, primary cluster is manufacturing, the program of study is welding, and here are the different certifications that are available for this program of study in this career cluster. Again, you don't have to get all the certifications, but students are expected to earn some type of credential upon exiting high school. We hope that they do. Post-secondary options on industry-based certifications. Industry-based certifications impact the school district's A through F accountability rating. They will not go unnoticed. So my recommendation to you as a new CTE teacher is find a certification that your students can earn and make sure that they get some type of credential before exiting your program. Enrichment. Career and technical student organizations are what's commonly known as CTSOs. The different career and technical student organizations are DECA, Technology Students Association, Texas Association of Future Educators, FBLA, Future Business Leaders, Skills USA, which used to be called VICA, but Skills USA is for most of the trades and industrial career clusters. The Health Occupation Students Association was HOSA. FFA is for the students that are involved in agricultural education. And then the FCCLA, formerly the FHA, and for the Family Community Career Leaders of America. And there they all are written out. Pulled these right off the TEA website. These are approved through the Texas Education Agency, BPA, DECA, FBLA, Family Career and Community Leaders of America, HOSA, Skills, FFA, Future Educators, and TSA. Career and technical student organizations enhance student learning through contextual instruction, leadership, and personal development, applied learning, and real-world application. CTSOs work as an integral component of classroom curriculum and instruction, building upon employability and career skills and concepts through the application and engagement of students in hands-on demonstrations. All of the CTSOs and the student organizations are themed around and relate to the different career clusters. Here, of course, just for some examples of pictures, you have some kids here at a national FFA leadership event. Here are some FFA students exhibiting their animal projects at some type of fair or show. Here are some FCCLA students. Looks like they've just done really well, and some type of culinary event. And then here's an example of some students at a Skills USA contest. Here's some champions, and they're out here building some structures as part of their Skills USA competition. I want you to notice the faces of every student in a CTSO, and you look up the pictures on the internet yourself. I want you to notice what the faces have in common, and that is a smile. Kids love their student organizations that relate to career tech. They always have, and they always will. CTSOs will grow your program. They will build community support and engage students. Activities involve students at the national, state, area, and local levels. And probably the most neglected, but what is the most important level of your career tech student organization is what you do in the classroom. Use these student organizations and the activities for enrichment in your classes and for engaging students in higher level thinking skills. Let's look at, now that we're talking about growing the students, let's talk about growing you as educators and the professional organizations and associations that relate to CTE in Texas. Professional associations offer training, development, and connections with others in the field, in your teaching field. You cannot get by without networking. Networking is an essential component of being an educator. The professional organizations that are associated with CTE teachers are our organization, the Career and Technical Association of Texas, the Family and Consumer Science Teachers of Texas, Hospitality Educators, Automotive Instructors, Business and Technology Educators, Health Occupations Association, TIVA, the Texas Industrial Vocational Association, Public Service Teachers, and the Ag Teachers Association of Texas. I encourage you to do your homework about these organizations because just like anything else, some are better than others. We don't really tout one or the other, but make sure you do your homework before joining an organization. As a participant In the new Teacher Academy through CTAT, you get a complimentary membership in CTAT by participating in the new Teacher Academy. And I know Robin's listening, so I hope it's not wrong, but I'm pretty partial to CTAT. I think it's one of the better ones in the nation. So as we wrap up in talking about the big picture for career and technical education, what is CTE? Well, CTE could be a blow-off class, or CTE could be a place for engaging students. CTE could be restrictive, or CTE could be accessible. CTE could be the class that the counselor stuck them in, or CTE could be the place a student finally finds to belong. CTE could be an escape from the core classes, or the place that science and math comes to life. CTE could be 180 days meeting the basic requirements, or where the students are motivated to discover their futures. So the challenge is to you as beginning teachers or teachers new to CTE. We challenge you to be engaging. We challenge you to care. We challenge you to hone your craft as a teacher. We challenge you to treat students as though they were your own. And above all, we challenge you to inspire students. I always told as a CTE administrator, I always told my new teacher, knowing the content's only about 20% of what you do as a teacher. It's 80% inspiring them. Tom Landry, the great coach for the Cowboys, always used this phrase. He said that practicing and coaching is getting students to do what they don't want to do to achieve the results that they want to achieve. It's all about being inspirational. I challenge you this year as a new CTE teacher to inspire your students. Their future depends on it. Again, I do want to thank you for entering the field and for being a new CTE teacher. You're appreciated beyond words. The CTE New Teacher Academy, if you're in session 1, we're here to provide support, professional development. We're here to be a resource for you. We're here to provide a network of CTE professionals across the state. And maybe most importantly, we're here to be your fan base. It's always great to have someone rooting for you when you're in a new position. And here at CTAT, we're rooting for you. And I mean that sincerely. For the CTE New Teacher Academy, and the different topics that we plan throughout the year will be best practices for cultural diversity. We'll take an in-depth look at the lesson cycle and instructional delivery techniques and remote learning. Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or the TEKS, a deep dive, developing lesson plans, differentiating instruction for special populations, building an effective career tech student organization, classroom management, which probably you might be wanting today, professional development and professional organizations, curriculum resources and developing your own curriculum resources, and the A through F accountability system. And so now I'm going to open it up. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to move here to the gallery view and going to open it up for question and answer. And then when we finish our short question and answer session, I'm going to turn it over to Robin Panovich, who is our, wait a second, Robin, I'm going to go back to share a second because I made this cool slide. So Robin is the executive director for the Career and Technical Association of Texas, and she won't get on here and brag on herself, but she's been so important in the development of career and technical education in Texas for the past 20 years, and she does that through providing a platform for members but also through her advocacy with the legislation in the state of Texas. And in a minute, when we finish our question and answer, Robin is going to do a brief presentation over Next Thought, which is our professional learning platform that we're using in CTAT. So back here in gallery view, is there anyone that has a question or a comment they would like to start with? And I'm sorry I haven't gotten to the questions in the chat, but looks like Robin answered most of them. And then because I can't see the chat as I'm going through the presentation.
I already want to know where to find lesson plans and sample assignments. So you might want to do quick overview of resources available for that and curriculum.
Yes. And that's a great question. And I'll send an email out maybe tomorrow, Robin, if you think we can do that. But here's the best place to do it. Look at txcte.org, and let's see if I can. I'm going to go back and try to share my screen again, and I'll show this to you. So the question came up.
Hey, Mark, I put that in the chat, and there's even, I put the link for the page dedicated to teachers.
Oh, you did?
There's some fantastic resources in there and some really short videos too.
Yeah, it varies, but if you'll go here and you go to this website, you can see it's TXCTE. And Robin, you said you already posted those in there?
Yes, I just put it in there.
Yeah, and so if you'll go here and just go find your career cluster, and I'm just going to pull up, business, and then go down here, and they'll have the teacher resources, and they'll do it by course. And let's see. There's principles of business, if any of you are teaching that. And then you go down here and you can find the scope and sequence for the course. And then you can find the lesson plans. Now I'll click on forms of business ownership. And you can download that lesson plan. And they're pretty darn good lesson plans.
And you'll notice that the introductory paragraph for each one of the CTE classes talks about the soft skills, the workplace basics. And that's right. One of the biggest assets that you're bringing into the CTE classroom is your real world work experience and helping students navigate, how to show up on time, how to communicate, collaborate, research answers, be creative in problem solving, and things like that, along with the specific technical skills that you will be teaching.
And Robin, there are, on that same website, there are specific lessons that are generic to all career clusters. And I'm thinking specifically of like the Texas reality check that they can go through. And if you're looking for some lessons to get started on, something like that Texas reality check is a pretty good one that you can use in every class and for every career cluster. What other questions did you have?
So I saw one about membership, and everyone that registers for the Academy will automatically become a member of CTAT. We'll do that on the back end, so you don't have to do the interface twice. If you want to, and go ahead and register as a member, you can put in the associate category would be fine.
Robin, we had a question when they went and looked on that CDE site that said for audio video there was some lessons not available, and help me out a little bit, but TEA has been updating that site almost daily, And back a few months ago, right before the plague hit, they'd actually taken it down and was updating the website. And when the virus came in, the teachers were needing the resources so bad that they actually came in and dumped the resources back in. So some of the lesson plans may be a little hit and miss, but for the most part, there's some good work on there.
That's what I've heard too. And that site in particular is thousands of pages. I mean, it
Oh,
is one of
yeah.
the largest websites that we could possibly manage to have in the state for CTE. There's
And
quite a lot.
it was they combined three gigantic websites that were ran from North Texas, Stephen F. Austin, and Texas A&M, and they combined those, put them all in that one TXCTE site. And so there's going to be some there's going to be a few hiccups.
All right, so Mark, there's a question in the chat box about teaching remotely, specifically food science. And I know that in our COVID response roundtables, we've heard some of our administrators talk about the creative ways they're tackling that. Do you want to share a couple of ideas?
Yes, some of the teachers, and CTAD also holds a roundtable for COVID response. And so we hear what administrators and teachers from all over the states are doing. And part of it is they were putting kits together for students. And so they would find a unit and they would say, in this unit, they're going to need these resources. So they would put kits together. They would come by if the student was learning through asynchronous, and they would come by and pick up the kits. And some people are even saying they were doing them in Home Depot buckets, but they would pick up the kits and come by and use those. And then also, don't forget, we're not a school here or a state entity, and so we don't mind pushing a vendor, but someone like ICEV for remote synchronous or remote asynchronous instruction, look at ICEV for resources, especially in agricultural science. They have it.
Right. And talk about those kits for other courses too, where there are hands-on applications, specific, the ones that are really hard to do with remote instruction. One of the other things is, depending on the districts, we've heard administrators talk about the various ways that they're letting students access campus, and in some cases designating certain CTE courses that have a really intensive hands-on experience that the student actually can have access to the lab certain days of the week without actually having fully in-person instruction.
It's going to vary by district, but I'm always in favor of hands-on and in-person when it's possible. But every every student's going to be different, and some students are more high risk. Some students may have family members that are more high risk. So you do have to make that available, or you want to make it available as much as possible. And someone's asking in there about the ICEV. I wish I'd been better prepared and had that link. I'm going to try to post the ICEV link in the chat box.
Okay. And while you're doing that, just real quick, I'm going to, Mark, you might have to make me co-host.
Okay.
I'm going to show everybody how to access the future sessions.
Okay, let me grab this link. And then, Robin, you're not already here, and I'm posting the link for ICEV.
Oh, there's a good question too, Mark. How are law and public safety teachers doing practicum for their students? Especially in some instances, you have to be 18 years of age.
Well, and some of them do it just like a observation, and then they'll use their in-district security for some of it, and some of it they'll do virtual. So during this time, there's a lot of flexibility. And one of the best things that's available is if you're a law and public safety teacher, we actually do the law conference through CTAD. And I know that there's a lot of networks. And Paul, if you will send me an email to Mark at ctat.org, I will get you in with that law and public safety group. They have a fantastic group that we learned about at conference this year.
So Mark, are you able to make me co-host?
I'm doing that right now.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so for those of you that do register for the Academy, we hope you do. We have, because we want to provide support throughout the year, and Mark is an outstanding mentor, and just having access to him to answer some of your basic questions is probably going to be a huge help to you, especially this year. So what I'm showing right now is what you're going to receive after you register for the Academy. Of course, you'll get a confirmation via our management system, but this in particular is what you want to look for. There will be an email that is sent from Next Thought, and oftentimes it gets trapped in school spam folders. So you'll want to definitely search for Next Thought. Just put it together as 2 words, because what this is an invitation for you to access our learning management system. So what it is it's an access key, and everyone has a unique access key. So once you accept that invitation, it will take you to the Next Thought platform, and it'll prompt you to create your user login. And so you're going to do your own password. There's no set password for you. You're going to be creating your own when you access this page. And so once you're logged in, it's and basically this houses our courses, and so all of our Academy sessions are going to be live. We're going to record them in case anybody misses, but you're going to have to access the Zoom link through this Next Thought platform. So once you sign up and you retrieve that access key, you're going to open Next Thought's platform, and you're going to see this icon because you will be registered for the New Teacher Academy. So you'll just click on the icon. There may be an open button or just the tile itself. And right now this says no sessions posted, because our second session, there will be a link here for the Zoom where we'll have our training. And this learning management platform is where we will post links and PDF documents that serve as resources for that particular session. And so that's kind of an overview of that. There's not a great chat functionality in Next Thought. And so really we're going to be utilizing the live Zoom chat box for a lot of that engagement. I wouldn't worry about using the chat as much within the learning management system. It's just a little weird with some browsers. It doesn't get along with Chrome for some reason, so there's that. But this is how to access it once you have the access key. All the Zoom links for future sessions will be there. So that's just a quick overview. You'll be looking for this after you register. For the next ones, and I'm sure Mark will probably poll you to see the best time of day
For sure.
folks, whether it's 4:30, 5:30, whatever that is. And so we'll proceed on a monthly basis based on your input.
Robin, we had a couple of questions in here. Miss Simmons asked if we had any suggestions for health science. And one of the things is we didn't really know what career cluster you guys would belong to, but we're talking about putting you guys into groups and then finding a mentor. So if we have 6 health science teachers in here, then we may find a mentor teacher to work with the health science. And the same may be true for AV. As best as we can do. There was no way to know who would do it. And so we'll send out a poll through a Google form and find out what we have in terms once we get people registered.
And I had a question about courses, because the tiles that you see in there are really, yes, there is a way. Let me go ahead and post a link. Keep in mind, we're getting ready to redo the entire CTAT website. So I'm a little embarrassed to even send you to there right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. We've been bumping along on an old template for a while, and it's definitely not as user-friendly or intuitive as we'd like it to be. So by the end of September, we're going to launch the new one, but I'm going to go ahead and send you to a page that shows what we do offer currently. And keep in mind, we keep adding based on input from the field for what folks need right now. But we definitely, we cater to CTE. That is exclusively what we do. And so our summer conference that took place in July had a tremendous number of sessions that were focused on remote learning. And if you are interested, the content from the summer conference is available on our learning management system through, I want to say, mid-October. If you're interested in registering for that, I will send you a link so you can, I know you guys are probably getting really good at bookmarking right now, but to our winter and summer conference sites. And winter conference is typically focused more towards administrators and coordinators, and summer conference is focused more towards, well, that includes administration, but also instruction. So if you do have a coordinator position or you're in charge of assisting teachers with multiple clusters, you definitely want to consider coming to the winter conference as well.
You know, we're here as a resource, and we know some of what you guys need, but most of all, if you'll tell us what you need, we can run it down most times. Robin, I can't think of a single time we couldn't run down an answer somewhere at some point. So let us help you.
The other thing I want to tell everybody is that we have a dedicated teacher forum under CTAC Connect. Once you become a member, you have free access to the forum, and our administrators are pretty active on there. And hopefully if we can get past the firewalls and you're able to access it from campus, you can ask questions. And a lot of times even your peers will jump on and address those questions. So your membership gets you that, and you'll have that once you sign up for the Academy.
And I'm going to give one example of, here's a question that Bruce Hanson asked in group. He says he's trying to start an aviation maintenance program. Is there an available curriculum and lesson plans? And off the top of my head, I don't know, but Celine Braswell, who is at Northwest ISD, they've started that and been running it for about 5 years, and she will have that curriculum. And so, Bruce, if you will send me that email, I will track down that aviation maintenance curriculum for you.
That's the other thing about CTAC Connect, is that you don't have to operate in isolation, because there are other teachers out there that are teaching the same subjects. And so reaching out and having that peer group is a good way to support your efforts without reinventing the wheel.
Robin, did I just hear you say that they had access to the summer conference materials if they join and get on the Next Thought platform?
They would have to register for the summer conference.
Oh, rest for something. Gotcha. Any other questions?
I have just like one or two. Well, one is, are there any type of practice certification tests that I could maybe give my students? You might have answered this earlier and I just didn't hear. And then my second one, and this might be a question that you might not know the answer to, which is fine. For like the winter and summer conference, are those things that are going to be maybe in person, or are those going to be virtual, like how this is?
Oh, that's a great question. So our winter conference, we are planning to be virtual. Just, seeing how everything's going, it's a little risky to plan for either scenario. It's a lot better to go ahead and make a decision and say it's going to be one way or the other. And since it does take about 5 months, or many cases longer, to plan those events, we with the uncertainty we have right now, we just went ahead and decided we're going to offer winter conference virtually. So summer conference, we still have our contract in place with the Fort Worth Convention Center and the Omni in Fort Worth. So we are not talking about doing that virtually at this point, just winter in February. So hopefully we'll have a vaccine and we can all be together.
And on about the certification practice exams, Tyler, if you're using Certiport for Adobe, I don't know specifically what, but let's say it was Adobe Premiere is what you were trying to get your students. Well, Certiport's going to have those practice exams, and they'll sell them to you as a individual student base, or they'll sell them to you as a district site license, which is usually cheaper.
Okay, thank you very much.
You betcha. Hey, and yeah, John, to answer your questions, yes, bud. Anytime, day or night.
I just had one question, if that's all right.
Yes, sir. Go
I
ahead.
was just, so I went to the website Robin posted. The CTAT website is really cool, and I was just wondering how's it going to look like. This academy. Like, is that thought it said 10-hour long sessions. Does that mean we have to miss a whole day? I mean, it's a pretty long session each one, or how long are they, and like what time?
Well, we're talking about 10 1-hour sessions. And
Oh, okay. I was like, man, 10
yeah,
hours? It's like 10 hours a
yeah,
session? It's like, whoa. No,
yeah.
I was just wondering. So, okay.
That would be like a Zoomathon.
Yeah, I thought,
And
okay,
that
so just 1 hour each.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the time, so in a traditional, non-coronavirus world, typically new teacher training occurs in like August or September, and it's 2 days, full days, in person, face to face. But with this situation presented a new opportunity. But rather than keep you locked up on a Zoomathon, we thought this would be a good way to actually learn from you too as the year goes along, because the further you go, the more you're going to realize the next set of questions that you have. And so we wanted to gear this towards keeping pace with what you're facing during the school year.
Okay,
And this
cool.
is the first time we've done it in this format. And so we're looking forward to you guys are going to be our pilot cohort.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.
Great question, Christopher. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording button.